The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't
The
care.
BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. Sunny Monday here in Southern California. Not so sunny for Kevin Youkilis fans. He was jettisoned to the Chicago White Sox yesterday for Brent Lillibridge and Zach Stewart. Not exactly a prince's ransom. Thought we'd call our buddy JackO, diehard Yankee fan at work, get his take on the whole thing. Let's give him a ring.
Complex Litigation, this is John.
Johnny.
What's up, buddy?
It's
Sad?
over. It's over.
You sad about the Youk?
It's over. He's gone.
He is gone.
And he's going to hit like 350 for Chicago. It's going to piss me off. I'm telling you right now.
I don't know if I'd put a lot of money on that in Vegas, frankly.
You think he's broken down?
I think he's done, yeah. I think it's all she wrote for Youk. I don't think he's going to come back to haunt you.
You know what's interesting? I looked up his career. It felt like Youk was on the team for like 20 years.
It did.
Looked up his career. It was really about a 5-year run. And in 2010 was his last, like, statistically really strong year, but even then he didn't play a full season. And then last year, was an off year.
Yeah.
This year was beyond an off year, and now it's over. But
Yeah.
I don't know. It felt like he was around for a lot longer than that. He was on the 2004 team.
Yeah, I didn't really remember that he was like a major player. Was he a major player in '04 or kind of a bench guy?
He was a bench guy, but he played during the season, but then in the playoffs didn't play as much. But he was involved. I mean, he was on the team and stuff.
Thanks to the therapy and the electroshock, I don't have a lot of memories of 2004, so I'm a little hazy about who played for them and what their role was. So
yeah, he somehow had 208 at bats.
Really?
In 2004, which
he was kind of the Middlebrooks of that year, I guess, huh? Like was he like a young phenom that came up then, or?
I'm guessing somebody was hurt. I'm looking at, oh yeah, because Bill Miller was on that team and he got banged up, so they had to bring Youkilis up.
All right.
But then he didn't really play, it wasn't until 2006 that he became a real guy. But here's why I don't think he's done. And, admittedly, I haven't watched every Red Sox game this year like I normally do because the team makes me physically ill until recently. But I have watched a lot of the Red Sox. And
Yep.
I still feel like he has command of the strike zone and that he can work pitchers. And even this year, like I think his pitches per at bat was like 4.58, something like that.
He could still be the Greek god of walks again, is what you're saying?
I think he could still work a pitcher in the right situation. And here's my fear, and this is what frightens me. I think he's headed toward a second phase of his career, if you will, where he becomes that guy who ends up on the Yankees like a year and a half from now
Bite your tongue.
as the righty DH
Oh,
who hit all of a sudden he's hitting like 360 in a limited, like 210 at bats, 360 with the 480 on base against lefties.
I've rooted for Wade Boggs and I've rooted for Roger Clemens, and as we've discussed in the past, you're just rooting for laundry. I'd have a really hard time swallowing Kevin Youkilis on the Yankees. Of course, he get a hit home run his first at bat. I'd probably buy his jersey, but I'd really have a hard time with that, I think.
Worse than Boggs? You hated Wade Boggs.
I did hate Wade Boggs, but I mean, I hated Wade Boggs because growing up in my formative high school years, it was always a big debate between Mattingly or Boggs, and I was obviously firmly in the Mattingly camp, so I could get beyond that. There wasn't really like a visceral hatred. There's a visceral hatred for Kevin Youkilis.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing to me that all he was worth was Brent Lillibridge, who's on my AL keeper team and who never plays. He gets like one at bat a week. And then Zach Stewart, who, whatever. Just typical pitching prospect who's probably never going to do anything. Right. And then they had to pay like 75% of his salary. Hench emailed last night and he was saying, Wow, when you talk about somebody having no market value, like look at what we traded Youkilis for. He paid 75% of his salary and
$5 million of $6 million or something. Yeah,
and got the White Sox 25th man, and then some pitcher who probably won't pan out. But holy mackerel, talk about declining value.
some pitcher who's given up 41 hits in 30 innings. I saw today his stats, like a 5 and change ERA.
I will say I kind of like Lillibridge.
Well, for the role he's going to play in the Red Sox, they just had to get Youkilis out of town. I'm amazed there was any market at all. I kept reading on Twitter about like 5 or 6 teams. At one point, I think it was like 10 teams interested in Youkilis, and I just couldn't wrap my head around that. Maybe that was typical Red Sox propaganda, but I was just mesmerized by the fact that people really wanted Kevin Youkilis. I wondered if they'd seen him play recently. Well,
I don't think he's a third baseman anymore because we talked about this last year in the podcast. Like when they moved him from first to third, I think it really affected him, and I just don't think it's just two different positions. And like look, Mo Vaughn played first base for the entire 90s. Like you don't really have to move around at first base. Speaking of Mo Vaughn, Game 5, Miami, Oklahoma City Finals.
Yes.
Which I wrote about how I was sitting near the Oklahoma City bench and Maverick, LeBron's right-hand guy, was in front of him.
Yeah.
So LeBron's crew had 8 courtside seats.
Nice.
Right next to that Oklahoma City bench. And it was like, Maverick, Leon Rose, who's one of his agents, Worldwide West's brother, Damon Jones, which was part of the crew, 2 other guys I didn't recognize, and Mo Vaughn.
Really?
Mo Vaughn.
Rich Vaughn is part of LeBron's posse?
Apparently. He had two giant diamond earrings, and it really made me happy because I feel like he finally fulfilled his destiny retroactively. I know he made over $100 million playing baseball, and he won an MVP. This was really his destiny to be the bouncer in LeBron's crew because he's like 335 pounds now.
Oh, that's an understatement. I saw highlights of that 100th anniversary of Fenway thing from April when they played the Yankees.
Yeah.
Brought out all the great Red Sox. Mo was pretty hefty.
Maybe I shot low with the 335.
430 may be more accurate.
But there was I don't know if you saw the game, but there was a weird moment with Durant and
yeah, there was going to be some ugliness with him and LeBron's posse, I guess.
So, Durant and Chalmers got in a little thing, and then there was a timeout, and for some reason Perkins started yelling at the guys, LeBron's guys, who were right near the bench, and was really doing death stares with one of the guys, and just yelling F-bombs back and forth for the entire timeout. And at some point, I felt like Mo Vaughn was about to get involved. Then I was like, oh my, Kendrick Perkins and Mo Vaughn, are they really? But he didn't. But there was about 5 seconds there where I was like, my head's going to explode if these guys start yelling at each other.
2 of Boston's favorite sons. That would have been like a civil war. That would have been terrible to see.
2 of the toughest guys in Boston sports history all of a sudden staring each other down, representing 2 teams that
would have been a good fight in Mo's heyday, but, a few too many trips to the fuzzy grave, Mo might not be really in fighting shape at the moment.
I got to say, I'd still take Mo.
Really?
Yeah, he really. I don't know how much money he saved, but if he ever becomes one of those guys who lost his fortune and becomes broke, I really think he can reinvent himself as one of the great bouncers of all time. Even just watching him standing there at halftime, I wanted to walk over and have him check my ID. It was just a fundamental instinct. But but back to Youkilis. I think his destiny is first base DH, platoon, bat against lefties guy. I think he could be a really valuable guy for a contender.
I don't know. It just was a precipitous drop in his skills. He may still be able to work the count and work walks, but when he tries to swing, it's not very effective. He's hitting 220. He had some ridiculous, he was 4 for 64. I'm sure that's not accurate, but it's not too far off. When he came back from his injury, he was horrendous. It was like a pitcher in the lineup. He was terrible.
So
he can get on base, but he's not going to do anything. And once pitchers realize, I'm going to put one right down Broadway because he can't do anything with it, that's going to change matters, I think.
You don't enjoy his 692 OPS?
No, I don't think that's doing much for me.
His 215 batting average? Not really?
No, not so much.
Do you, on a scale of 1 to, I was patiently waiting the smear campaign stories today. I guess they're going to have to run tomorrow.
Yeah,
how's that going to work?
Is it going to be drugs or womanizing or gambling? What is it going to be? I know, I can't wait, because nobody ever leaves Boston well.
There was always buzz that he was the mole for that Boston Globe article.
Right.
And I never believed it. But
doesn't seem like he'd be the type of guy to do that.
No, I think he's more the kind of guy who wouldn't be able to hide it if he felt like the situation was a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't shy about, calling Jacoby Ellsbury out a couple of years ago when he was hurt. He was rehabbing in Arizona and not with the team, and he stood by those comments even when there was problems that emanated from them. So he doesn't really seem like the snitch type.
Yeah, I didn't really enjoy that.
They say he was like a guy that, like, not only did he stand by those comments, but then when Ellsbury came back, like, he made Ellsbury feel bad all last year when Ellsbury was an MVP candidate. Like, Youkilis was constantly mocking him to the point of, like, near tears almost, where it said I read up things about Ellsbury is like a shy guy with only a handful of friends on the team, and Youkilis was like the annoying guy in the locker room, like in gym in high school or something, like snapping his towel at him.
That can't be true.
They claimed he would rag on him all the time.
I have to say, looking at Youkilis's advanced stats,
yeah,
his BBIP was a little bit down.
It was, yeah. That's like balls in play or something, right?
Yeah, nah, it actually wasn't. You want to say like he was unlucky, but like he hit looks like he hit 233 for the 2012 Red Sox, according to this. That's wrong, but his BBIP was 55 points higher than his batting average.
Well,
that's not great. Yeah. That means he actually wasn't that unlucky. But I just felt like, yeah, there were moments. Hench, of course, who was emailing me constantly that Youk was done and he's totally broken down. This guy's a corpse, all that stuff. There were a couple moments where he'd work a pitcher or whatever. I remember there was one Detroit game when he had a big hit, and you'd be like, "Oh, here he comes," but he just never got going. I'm excited. Lillibridge is one of those guys that we never really have. The guy who can play like 7 positions and he can steal, and he'll have the random 4-for-5 game with 2 home runs, and you're like, what the hell just happened? But I do feel like this Red Sox team's slowly kind of becoming a little more palatable.
Yeah, they're like 10 or 11 games over 500 since sometime in mid-May, I think.
Nava, Middlebrooks, like at least they have like guys who they have a little life to them.
I can't wait until Carl Crawford comes back and throws a monkey wrench and all that, and those works. Puts the brakes on, comes in like an anchor and puts the brakes on any momentum they had. I'm excited for that.
We're 38 and 34, Johnny.
I know, the high water mark, 4 games over 500.
I will say I think Middlebrooks might be legitimately good.
Well, I was hoping that he would tail off now that they traded.
I don't know if he is.
It would be great if he fell apart. He had a home run over the weekend, I know, but wasn't that like his first extra base hit in like a month? I was hoping that the league had kind of figured him out because he came up and was like, Lou Gehrig when he first started. But,
yeah, he definitely had a hot streak that artificially inflated his stats a little bit.
Right.
I like him though. I like the way he carries himself. It's interesting when going into the season, he was like a fringe top 100 prospect, but people seem to think like his ceiling was 275, 20 homers, like that kind of guy. He might be a little better than that.
Yeah, people are like, he's a fan favorite. The people love him.
But when you think though, 4 games over 500.
Yeah.
With the number of injuries that this Red Sox team has had, I mean, could you say decimated? I feel like decimated is a fair adjective.
Well,
verb.
You were hurt by Ellsbury getting hurt. I'm not sure what other injuries. I mean, Bailey hurt you, I guess.
Oh, is he? What do we have? 13 outfielders. Bailey hurt us. He was the closer.
Yeah, that hurt. And
Alfredo Aceves.
Ellsbury hurt, but I mean, decimated. I don't know. You weren't decimated when Lackey got hurt, or Dice K, or Crawford. You weren't decimated by those injuries. You were helped.
We had the Buchholz just went on the deal.
Yeah, he's got some sort of gastrointestinal thing.
Pedroia got hurt.
Yeah, but he didn't go out at all.
Yeah, he's battling injuries.
I mean, the Yankees lost the greatest closer in the history of mankind. Have muddled through somehow to first place.
You were overdue to lose him.
Brett Brett Gardner got hurt. He's a key table setter, outfielder.
That is true. The Brett Gardner thing was a good injury, or was a big injury for you.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It was a bad injury.
It was a good injury for me. I liked it.
Yeah, it's been out. He's setting the table. God knows how many games in front they could be now with him. They have Ibanez playing the outfield every day. That doesn't help anybody.
Oh, I enjoy that. I like when anybody hits the ball toward him.
I cringe. It's an adventure when he catches it, even on routine fly balls.
Didn't he go to the AL specifically so he wouldn't have to play the outfield anymore?
Explicitly, yes. I think it's in his contract, actually. I think they had to throw him some more money so he could play the outfield.
Yeah, it's interesting because, the Sox are basically 3 games behind in the wild card right now. One of the teams that is in that wild card mix is the White Sox.
That's interesting.
They traded Youkilis to the White Sox, which is usually the sign like we are convinced that this guy cannot hurt us anymore.
Well, I read over the weekend that they didn't want to trade him to an American League team, but if they were left with no choice or that was the best offer, so I have a feeling that may have been the only offer.
Yeah. I really thought the Dodgers were going to get involved at some point. These teams must have been like, whoa, Youkilis is available, and then sent the scouts, and then the scouts must have just emailed back. Jeez.
Yeah, there was a scouting report that came out a couple of weeks ago, and it said basically like he can't do anything anymore. And then when you factor in what you'd have to give up and the salary you have to pay him, it was basically like criminal negligence to trade for him.
I am a big change of scenery guy, especially in sports, and I think a variety of things led to the fact that he needed a new city. And I've been saying this for a couple months. I just think, I think you can burn out in Boston a little bit.
Yeah,
also,
he hated Bobby V apparently, so it can't be pleasant coming to work every day. And if Beckett thought he was the snitch or something, maybe it was an unpleasant locker room, and maybe he took that out onto the field with him. It's a possibility, I suppose.
And he got really immersed in the whole Boston scene. Like his ex-fiance was, very, very visible in the whole party scene. And
now he's married to Tom Brady's sister. It's like Boston royalty.
Now he's marrying Brady's sister. Like he was always like, I guess immersed would be the word. I don't know, but it might be good for him.
Into the Boston culture and all that.
Yeah, it might be good for him just to go to a new city where nobody knows him, and they're just asking him to hit lefties for a couple months.
You think Brady's sister can get out of their marriage now? Did he get traded, or
she's looking at Middlebrooks?
Yeah, she's taking a long look at Middlebrooks.
So NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Did you watch?
I did. I found myself more interested than I usually am in the NBA. Like the past 2 years, I've been more intrigued by the NBA. Maybe
Nice.
it's the 47 columns that you write about it every day that I had no choice but to get into it. But
Thank you.
yeah, there was some interesting storylines this year, and Durant, and it was basically every American's duty to root against the Miami Heat, so I was doing that, but disappointed.
Yeah. Got to hand it to him, though.
Yeah, they won it. They won it. I mean, there was one game the OKC was up by like 17 points after the first quarter. Was that game 4?
Yeah, game 3, it was 3 or 4. It was one of those two.
And then I was like, well, this is good. This could make it a series. And
It was 4.
I figured David Stern would phone that in, wanting it to go 7 games, but it was not meant to be. I mean, LeBron James, triple-double in a clinching game. He answered all the critics.
Yeah, I was thinking about it because I wrote a pretty gushy column about him on Friday. I am happy that he reached his potential as a player, but there is a little bit of that element though, like that he teamed up with those guys.
Oh, sure.
Trying to make it easier on himself. Like I was thinking like A-Rod in 2009 is similar. Like
a little bit, yeah.
You win a title kind of by stacking the deck a little bit.
Yeah.
And when people actually win the title,
it can't mean as much.
Well, no, it's interesting. We always talk about how they stack the deck, and oh my God, can you believe these guys? That's the easy way out, signing with the Yankees, or that's the easy way out, teaming up with Wade and Bosch. Then when you actually win the title, everybody forgets to talk about stacking the deck.
Yeah.
It's like, he did it. He reached his potential, and everybody forgot the part that 2 years ago he stacked the deck a little bit. But the thing is, like he was the best player. Wade did become his sidekick. So from the stacking the deck standpoint, I don't think it was as blatant as it would have been last year.
I mean, it became his to my untrained basketball eye.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more his team than Wade's team now, though, isn't it? Don't they defer to LeBron? And he was the guy in crunch time.
100%.
And the little bits of it that I watched, I didn't think Wade played all that great.
Nah,
he's a big whiner too, Wade, huh? God, he whines after every play.
He's pretty unlikable. He's turned into he's kind of taken Kobe's mantle as the guy who A, has never committed a foul in his life, and then B, gets fouled every time he misses a shot.
Yeah, he spends more time arguing and complaining. It's just, I always think he was a classy guy, but I don't know. I was a little turned off by his performance.
Were you excited? Did you get any of the Ace of Spades $75,000 champagne for yourself after they won, or did you just live vicariously?
No, I'm saving that for October when the Yankees win. Yeah.
Ace of Spades, $75,000.
$75,000 a bottle?
Seems a little pricey.
Wow, it's a little lofty for. I don't know. I think that can't help but be disappointing. $75,000 a glass. I mean, I'm sure it tastes good, but Jesus, $75K a bottle. I wanted to do more than just taste good. Better, blow my mind.
I mean, I know things have changed a lot since we were out and about all the time.
Yeah.
The biggest change over the last 10 years, and the one that I always wonder how we would have handled, is this whole this club thing.
Like the bottle service and all that?
The bottle service scene. Because I mean, I know I didn't have the money in the late 90s. I don't know how I would have gone out. I would have felt like I just would have felt really inadequate all the time. I wouldn't have had money to get like a $500 table with the 2 bottles.
Remember the greatest time ever we had in college is when they opened a sports bar in Worcester and they had $1 well drinks. You could get like a $1 gin and tonic.
Yeah, we gravitated that direction. It was more toward the $1 or 2-for-1 shots.
Holy Cross put that bar out of business in about 3 months, but and that was gin that the guy made upstairs in a bucket, I believe. But it was $1. You could get like well drinks, and so imagine if that's the world we were in. Hey, we can go out for $5 and get Blotto, buy everybody drinks, and so now transferred to a world where you're supposed to buy everybody like a $500 bottle of Grey Goose and have a table. Yeah, that would have been difficult for us, I think.
Yeah, I like the old days more.
Yeah.
I liked when the goal of going out was to get as drunk as possible while spending the least amount of money.
Right. If I want to drink a whole bottle of vodka among my friends, you could just go buy a bottle of Grey Goose for $50 instead of $500 and just drink it in your house, right?
It really feels like they've manipulated the system against people in their 20s and 30s.
It's kind of a high markup, yeah. It would seem so.
Yeah, that really was one of the worst. What was the name of that place that did the $1 drinks?
Wasn't it like a sports name, like Play It Again or something?
Yeah, it was kind of downtown, near downtown, and again, probably the worst business plan any American place has come up with in the last 20 years, to do $1 drinks near a school that has a bunch of guys named Sullivan and Murphy who are it's in their blood to drink.
Remember they had the breathalyzer thing where it was like a video game and you could put in a quarter or 50 cents and then it had straws and you would blow into it and it would tell you your blood alcohol content.
Yeah.
But unfortunately they wouldn't let you put your initials like it was a video game, because that probably wouldn't have led anywhere good, I suppose. It would top out at 0.2. It wouldn't go any higher, so there couldn't be any wagering.
Yeah, they should have at least had it go to 0.3.
Yeah, absolutely. I really think they should have let you put your initials in there like a video game, but I think they probably were trying to stay away from that. The $1 well drinks cost them enough problems. They didn't need to have, hey, congratulations, you blew a .40. We took a picture of it to show you in the hospital.
We won't say his name, but remember the first month of freshman year, the kid had to go to the infirmary?
Yeah.
Didn't they?
He had a pretty high number. He was in the 2-something range, I think, yeah.
Yeah. I wish Elias had kept stats.
Yeah, he had a lofty
baseball.
one, I think, yeah.
In general, the whole breathalyzer thing, like, first of all, you would think they're very expensive.
Yeah.
You'd think they would make them cheaper, because breathalyzers are ultimately a good thing and a productive thing.
Absolutely. And
teach you things like, hey, dude, you shouldn't be driving. You just blew, you're over the limit or whatever. Would seem like almost as a public service, they would give these away for like $10, $8, put them in cars.
Yeah.
things like that. And instead it's gone the other way, and it's like, yeah, that's going to be $99.
Maybe that bar had a thing that because it was part of like their deal with Worcester that if we're going to sell $1 drinks, look, we're being very responsible. We have a thing you can test your blood alcohol content before you leave, so you know to take a cab home.
Hey, you're right. The initials, they should have been like Golden Tea.
Absolutely.
That would have been great.
Yeah, it's really a lost opportunity. Yeah, but that bar literally was open for like 3 months. $1 drinks. We went there with like $20 that we scraped together from change in the couch.
Yeah.
I'll take 20 gin and tonics, please.
I remember like pooling money together for kegs. We always used to get the Miller Genuine Draft. What was it, like $35, $40?
Yeah, you could buy a keg for like $40 at the time.
Now we'd be like pooling money to get like the double bottle Grey Goose service at some lousy club.
Yeah, exactly. Probably a lot more credit card debt now. You probably just put it on a credit card.
Yeah, that's true. Credit card debt really didn't come into vogue until a couple years later.
Right. And then a
I
month
missed
later,
that whole
you get
era.
your statement, and you're like, oh my God, I bought how many bottles of Grey Goose? Yeah.
Our era was more about asking parents for money and making up fake reasons for that money, like a gym membership. It was really a gambling debt.
That's right.
Mom, good news. I joined a gym. It's going to be $730. And I need it in cash, and I need it in the next 24 hours. That's suspicious at all.
Just wire me the money, yeah.
Did you watch Aaron Sorkin's Newsroom last night?
No, I did not.
You did not?
No, I got a lot of props on Twitter for my tagline for Game of Thrones, which was, come for the breasts, stay for the dragons. Aaron Sorkin's Newsroom, my tagline for that is, I wouldn't watch this show at effing gunpoint. It's not quite as catchy as this come for the breast, stay for the dragons.
A little too liberal and pontificating for you?
Yeah, just a little bit. A little too liberal and preachy and elitist. Yeah, no, I wouldn't watch it. I can't think of anything that would make me watch it.
Did you like Studio 60?
No. I'm not a big Aaron Sorkin fan. I was never like enamored of the I almost called it the left wing, which would have been appropriate, the West Wing. I never watched that because it's, this fantasy of Martin Sheen as like a half-communist president and how all the wonders that he would do. That wasn't right my alley either. So no, I never saw Studio 60.
Yeah. Studio 60,
Lorne Michaels or whatever.
The pilot of Studio 60 was one of the great pilots of all time. And then the show, in my opinion, quickly went downhill. But West Wing I liked.
Sure.
At least the first 2 years. Sports Night I thought was insufferable, and I've gotten into a lot of different arguments with people about this. I stand by it too.
It's one of those shows that was critically acclaimed. I never knew anybody that ever watched it.
Yeah, and it fell into that vortex of people said they watched it, but I never believed them.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't watch Sports Night? I was like, you don't either. What are you talking about? You've seen it twice. There are always those shows that it becomes cool to say that you watch them, but you don't actually watch them.
That's right. It's just like you'd like to say that at cocktail parties.
Like Community seems like it's a really smart show and funny, and I really like Joel McHale.
Yeah, he's funny.
I have seen maybe 2 episodes of it, but I think people like to say they watch it religiously, but I don't believe them because it's almost been canceled like 15 times.
Yeah, and that's another one where that's like everybody's like favorite toy. Like they love Community and get their backup when it's threatened with cancellation, as it is about every 3 months.
Nobody ever says like you love The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
That's not a show you brag about. I love The Big Bang Theory, but yet it's a show that's watched by a ton of people, and the reruns for it just sold for like a record-setting price.
I know, it gets good ratings, which I when my wife got me into watching it, I'm like, there can't be anybody possibly watching this show, but apparently there is.
Where were you when you found out that Jim Parsons came out of the closet?
I was here in my office because you informed me of that.
Most stunning come out of the closet moment since Danny Pintoro?
Well, that one really was stunning. Who knew? Who knew that the kid from Who's the Boss? Jim Parsons, I was a little bit less shocked.
That's still my number one.
Danny Pintoro?
For the least shocking. To me, that's still the leader in the clubhouse.
Well, what's amazing is I saw something online the other day about Liberace, like that there was actually a time where like people didn't outwardly know about Liberace? I mean, like, if you watched him for 3 seconds, it was pretty clear, no?
People thought he dated?
Well, no, but I mean, well, it was a different time, I guess. So you didn't really talk about sexuality in that way. But I mean,
right?
He kind of kept up the ruse. He never came out, even till the end. I don't think he ever openly came out. I think it was sort of like a wink and a nod. But I mean, he never admitted that, and I think he sort of, at least pretended to date women. And I'm not sure he was ever like linked to Elizabeth Taylor or anything, or whoever was the starlet of the day.
I got to be honest. I'm still not. I'm still on the fence. You can still sell me on him.
About Liberace,
dating ladies.
Sure?
Yeah, I was thought he had some masculine moments.
Absolutely.
Remember we visited a house in Washington that time, and we watched the Liberace miniseries?
It was a movie. I do remember that.
Or
yeah.
movie, whatever it was. That was tremendous.
And that's the one where his mother tried to like send a woman up to his room or something, and Lee, as they called him, he wanted no part of it.
Lee. That was like they called him Lee. I had to find out what that was. Liberace TV movie.
Yeah.
What was that, like 1990? Oh,
no.
1988.
Well, we watched it. No, we watched it in like 94 or 95.
Right.
But I'm not sure when the TV movie came out. I think.
Remember the Jimmy Chitwood was his chauffeur.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, because I'm looking it up, and Jimmy Chitwood was the chauffeur.
That's right.
And we made like 1,000 Jimmy Chitwood jokes.
That's right.
Liberace, I'll make it.
That's right. I forgot about that. Lee.
Liberace stays, I stay. Liberace goes, I go.
Yeah.
That was great.
So did you watch Newsroom or Newsnight or whatever it's called?
I watched the first half. It got very preachy.
Yeah.
Super duper preachy. And
I've seen murderous reviews even from like people that would be sympathetic to its politics.
Well, now there's been a backlash to the backlash, which you knew was a mortal lock in Vegas. Now people are saying it's better than the reviews weren't fair. It's better than it's got the typical Sorkin stuff. It's polarizing. The acting's good. The dialogue's really fast. It gets preachy. It's all the stuff he usually does. I mean, it's always amazing when people are stunned that his shows
you know what you're getting, right?
Yeah, I mean, Social Network was probably he did the best job of kind of making it un-Sorkin-ish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just kind of doing his thing. I have a great deal of respect for him. I just think he's really good at writing dialogue. But
the problem is nobody talks like that in real life, though.
Yeah, we'd be interrupting each other constantly right now.
Right, and I don't speak in like a complete paragraph monologue. It just doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah, that
like
is
right now when you just said right. So you didn't say like a whole paragraph monologue there.
Well, if Sorkin was writing me, I would have had a very witty response.
Absolutely, yes.
It's too bad. I don't know if we talked about this on the pod yet, but I am now 16 episodes through Game of Thrones. I have 4 to go.
Really? I know you even raved about it on Twitter or somewhere I saw the other day.
Right. And you love Game of Thrones.
No. My God.
Oh, you don't love... Who watches... Oh, House loves Game of Thrones.
I think you had a head injury or something. Did you get involved in a fight with Maverick Carter and the posse or something?
You know what it was?
Hit over the head with a bottle at bottle service? No, you were trying to get me to watch Game of Thrones.
That's what it was.
We did a podcast.
That's what I...
And I said I never watched Lord of the Rings. I never played Dungeons and Dragons. I didn't think it was right up my alley. And then you told me that there's
I told you about the natural assets. Yeah. Now here's what happened. I flew to Oklahoma City for games 1 and 2. Then I flew home. Then I flew to Miami for games 4 and 5, and I flew home. And you're not going to believe this, but I got sick.
Yeah, go figure.
In the mortal act. The biggest lock of the century was LeBron winning the Finals MVP after Game 3, and then the second biggest lock was me getting sick and somehow ended up with bronchitis.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm a little out of it. I don't know what's going on with me, Johnny. Falling apart physically.
Yeah, you're not getting any younger.
Yeah. We're all getting old here, Johnny.
I know. My birthday is a week from today, next Monday.
Oh my God!
It freaked me out because I'm going to be, 40. As I hack up a lung to prove it, I'm going to be 42 years young. And I remember being so excited to turn 21. Having a countdown. After
you're doubling 21.
And now I've lived a whole other 21 years beyond that, and I distinctly remember turning 21 and the excitement. And now I've lived like somebody born on my birthday then is going to be able to legally drink this coming Monday.
Well, it gets really It gets really ugly when you're older than every baseball player.
Yeah, that's brutal.
And that's
That's
why I
why
was
we need
reading.
Jamie Moyer to pick up a team.
Exactly. And I was very upset that Jamie Moyer retired because now it's up to Omar Vizquel to just remain older than us for the next 5-6 years. Come on, Omar.
You can do it.
Keep up the good fight, buddy.
It was great if we were this age in the 70s because you had Gaylord Perry
Yeah,
stuck
that's
around,
right.
and Nolan Ryan, you know?
Oh, wait, I forgot to ask you about the Clemens trial.
Oh, yes.
Did you follow the Clemens trial?
No, I don't think anybody followed the Clemens trial, not even the jurors. Seemed to drag on and on forever. It was so tedious. And I was shocked by the verdict because it seemed to me, not having seen a lick of evidence, that he was guilty of sin. Everybody knows he took steroids, and everybody knows he lied to Congress about it. But apparently the government couldn't prove that.
It's pretty crazy that they couldn't prove that he used HGH when his wife used it and his best friend used it.
I guess Andy Pettit kind of killed the case. The little bit that I read about it is like the first day of trial on direct examination from the government. He was like, oh, absolutely, totally. He shot up with HGH, told me about it, sang its praises. And then the next day, during cross-examination, Andy's like, well, I wasn't 100% sure.
Right.
It could have been Clemens, or maybe it was his wife. I forget. So he kind of sandbagged the whole government's case.
They brought in Frankie Five Fingers to stare down Pettit.
That's right. They brought in Mariano Rivera to sit in the audience or something. And
Mariano Rivera threw an ACL at him.
Exactly. Maybe they got to Mariano Rivera's knee, and that was a warning to Pettit. No, I was surprised by it, though. I was shocked, frankly.
Yeah.
I was going to make a joke about how good Pettit's looked this year. Maybe they can bring Clemens back now too.
Would you vote for these HGH PED suspects for the Hall of Fame? Do you care?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I suppose it should be noted about the time that they played in and what was going on. But, I mean, Roger Clemens deserved to be a Hall of Famer before the latter stages of his career. I suppose he didn't start taking, I suppose by all evidence, even McNamee, he didn't start to take it till like 2003 or something, I guess, right? Or was it sooner?
I've written about this. Now, I think you can make a really strong case that he might have done it in 97, 98.
All right, but he deserved to be he won a number of Cy Youngs before that.
The same thing with Bonds. Bonds had Bonds' first, 12 years where he would have made the Hall of Fame anyway, probably.
Right. And the same thing with A-Rod. I mean, all these guys were Hall of Famers. I mean, I suppose there's some guys that were borderline, like a guy like a Sammy Sosa or McGuire, put up astronomical numbers, and you can't separate the steroids from the astronomical numbers. So, but guys like Clemens and Bonds and A-Rod, I think were all Hall of Famers beforehand. And so whatever taint they have on their later career, however much their numbers were inflated, they weren't inflated that much to go from being borderline or non-Hall of Famers to Hall of Famers, I think their numbers were good enough to get in on the merits.
I wrote a column about this when McGuire was first up for whatever, or whenever that became a debate. I just think all these guys should be in. It's a museum. The goal of a museum is to bring people to the museum and say, all right, here are all the people that mattered. Here's what they did. Here's some of the best players of this era and this one and this one. And it's just weird to me that you're telling me I would bring my son to the Hall of Fame, which, by the way, that part's weird too because he won't care about baseball, nor will any kid under 20, except for maybe a handful. But it's just, all right, I'll use my buddy Gus because his middle son Jack is totally into baseball. He loves baseball. So he's going to bring Jack to the Hall of Fame, and Pete Rose isn't going to be there. Right. Neither will Bonds. Neither will Clemens. Neither will McGuire. What kind of Hall of Fame is this? Well, I don't understand that. Just put it on the plaque.
And there's guys, and it's not like I never understood the thing of the character to get into the Hall of Fame because, Ty Cobb was a complete scumbag. He's in the Hall of Fame. You have guys that were adulterers. You have guys that were drug addicts or had all kinds of problems. Beat their wives, et cetera, et cetera. They're all in the Hall of Fame because it's on what you do on the field, on the merits, the numbers you put up, that you were among the best to ever play this game.
It really seems like we might need a new Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Might just start over with a different one, but I don't understand what the big deal is about putting on their plaque that they were either cheated or were suspected of cheating.
Right. Just
Like,
say
it feels like
played in a steroid era. It was, he was mentioned in the Mitchell report as having used it,
And don't let him give a speech.
Right.
Don't invite him to the ceremony. Say, well, you're going in. You don't get to give a speech. We're not celebrating you, but we also can't have the Hall of Fame without you. Pete Rose, guy who has the most hits ever.
You can't not have the guy that has the most hits ever,
Yeah.
Just
Here's
doesn't
Pete
make any
Rose.
sense. Or the guy with the most home runs.
Pete Rose was a Hall of Famer, and we didn't allow him to speak at his Hall of Fame induction because he bet on baseball, and we caught him. And that's it. It's on his plaque.
Right. But these sports writers and people that vote for the Hall of Fame, this is like their sacred honor, and they take it way too important. And like, I have to. I mean, the dumbest thing ever is nobody can get in with 100% of the vote now because Babe Ruth didn't. So now a guy like, Ricky Henderson. If Ricky Henderson isn't a Hall of Famer, then they shouldn't have one. And some idiots had to leave him off their ballot. Did they coordinate that? I'm going to leave him off my ballot. So you go ahead and vote for him. Don't worry.
Yeah, me too. I'm leaving him off too. We got to prove a point to the people
make sure it's not 100%. I mean, come on.
So that 4 guys who didn't vote for Babe in 1939.
Exactly.
They're all dead, but we're proving a point.
Exactly. It's so idiotic. And nobody pays attention. Well, I guess they do. They keep track of it. But, I mean, the average fan who goes doesn't pay attention to, oh, my God, don't look at Steve Carlton. He only got 83% of the vote or whatever, He's not worthy. Give me a break.
Well, the dumbest one was Seaver. How does Seaver not get 100% of the vote?
Right.
That was ridiculous. The Rose thing, I was talking about this with somebody about when we were kids growing up in the 70s. Rose was like the guy.
Absolutely. He was the face of baseball.
Rose was like in 1975-76 range. He was the guy you would have started a team with because he just was the greatest competitor that the sport had at that point. You just always felt. I remember one of my first memories was the Red Sox playing them in the 75 World Series, and just being all I knew was that I should be scared of Pete Rose.
Right.
It's weird that he's not in the Hall of Fame.
No, it is. It's odd. And I mean, he's been punished enough,
Munson's
he's
not in
relegated
there, right?
to signing balls for like $50 in Vegas, I mean,
Yeah.
it's been 20 odd years now, longer, 89 since he's been banned. I mean, I think he's paid the price.
Munson's not in there, right?
No, I don't think he played long enough though.
No, he didn't play long enough. I actually think I'd have to look at it because when we were growing up, it was Bench and then Fist, then Munson.
He does have an MVP. He was a perennial All-Star, but he doesn't have a long enough. He doesn't have a long enough career.
Well, but sometimes they'll get jumpy with guys who died.
Yeah, that's true. But they never did. I mean, he died in '79, and they haven't put him in yet.
Yeah.
No,
I know.
And the Veterans Committee, when they put Phil Rizzuto in, the Veterans Committee they tightened it up after that because these guys were voting their buddies in.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the concept of the Veteran Committee. They're hanging out at some lodge,
right?
Trying to figure out who should make it. Let's put Phil in.
Right, a boozy golf round. Yeah, put him in.
Put him in. All in favor, say aye. Did you know I'm looking at the oldest players ever?
Yeah.
Jamie Moyer was the 3rd oldest player ever to play baseball.
I know. There was some crazy stat about how he's pitched to I forget what the number is, 8%, 10% of everyone that's ever played Major League Baseball.
Or the 3rd oldest pitcher, I should say.
Yeah.
I forgot about Minnie Minoso in 1980.
Yeah, but
54.
didn't they just bring him up for one at bat so he could have one in all 4 decades or something?
Julio Franco was 49.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And then he played in the Mexican League for a while after that too.
Yeah. Keep chugging along, Omar.
Let's do it.
We need you. You're the guy who's older than us in the majors now. Okay, good luck. JackO.
Yes.
We'll talk to you soon.
All right, buddy.
All right, a little bit more Youk talk here. We're going to Boston. I want to get somebody who's in the city of Boston. From CSNNE.com. God, that's a bad URL. But Rich Levine, what's happening?
Thanks for getting it right, though. That's the most important part.
CSNNE.com. They really need to change that to the Stallion or something that is more easily rememberable.
I'll bring that up at the meeting tomorrow.
All right, so we're taping this right now. It's Monday. It is 1:50 East Coast time. the smear campaign for Youkilis has not started yet, right? Has it kicked in, or is it going to be tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm thinking tomorrow. I think Larry's just got to get his ducks in a row,
Right.
And then I think that the Globe will probably have something tomorrow, and then it'll be everywhere by the next day.
Do you? I mean, if you had to bet on this, like even odds, 2-1 odds, -300, what would you put for this?
I mean, I think that you would be crazy to bet against something coming out to the effect that he was either the man who leaked everything last year, or was one of the biggest problems last year, or was one of the biggest problems this year. But it's coming. Well, he would be the first that wasn't hit by it, right?
Manager killer, manager contaminator, like all that stuff will start.
It's clubhouse killer. You don't even doesn't even need to be the manager. It's everybody. Everyone hated him.
But meanwhile, you've been. Yeah, I mean, I assume you've been in that locker room more than a few times, correct?
I actually haven't.
You haven't been in
No.
the Red Sox. Oh, you did Celtics.
Yeah, just the Celtics. I haven't been in the Red Sox locker room, but from what I hear and what you gather from the guys that are in there, it doesn't seem like they're really picking up what's actually going on, if there is anything going on. I think when the reporters are actually inside, it seems like everything is for the most part hunky-dory. Exactly, and then whatever happens, and we can speculate about it all day. But that's the crazy thing, and that's what makes it all the more frustrating, is that no one knows what's actually happening. I mean, there's all the speculation, but who knows?
It's interesting to follow this stuff from 3,000 miles away, because in Boston's kind of gone haywire with the sports scene, because now you have these 2 all-sport radio stations. You have how many websites now? Like you have ESPN
15,
Boston,
15, I think.
ESPN Boston.
You
have WEI.com.
Yeah, CSNNE.com, of course.
Boston.com.
Boston.com. You have the Herald.
Right.
You have, and then 20,000 blogs.
Probably too much media, I'm guessing.
Yeah, there's too much, and I mean, everyone's talking about the same thing now, So
Yeah.
it's not like there's a big variety. So, but yeah, it's not the next time you hear someone talk about actual baseball in Boston will be the next time. Yeah, regardless of what's going on, regardless of how much they're winning, and the fact that they are, within reach of the playoff spot. It's crazy early, but they're within reach of the division. But right now, all anyone really wants to talk about is what's going on behind the scenes, and to make it even more frustrating, like I said, no one knows what's going on. So everyone's just talking in circles. But that's the way we do it. You've been here.
Yeah, it's actually one of the things that I do not miss about Boston. I miss a ton of stuff. I do not miss the oversaturated media coverage, and especially with things like this, where, as you said, it's a talking in circles type thing, and nobody actually has any information. And then when something happens, like last year when that Globe piece came out after the season that had all the stuff in there, and then it's like, oh my God, it's like dropping a nuclear bomb, and everybody gets a month of stuff out of it. But it is weird to me, like, how much media is enough in Boston? Like the fact that there are 2 24-hour sports stations, but then also those shows that are on. You've been on some of those shows. They're on. Nesson has them, and then Comcast has them. These shows where there's sports writers that they have like the little panels and stuff. Apparently those get ratings because those shows are on all the time, right? People are watching those.
Well, that's the thing. Well, it's one of those things where if you love pizza, you're going to go to a pizza place every day and eat pizza. I mean, people love sports here. So if there's a place to watch and listen and read about sports, people are going to be there. That's the way, with WEI, even when everyone had problems with it, 5 years ago before the Sports Hub came, everyone listened because that's how you got your pizza.
Right.
And yeah, so you can say maybe it's too much, but like you said, it gets the ratings. People are interested. And you can write a post about anything. You label it Red Sox, especially. You label it Patriots, and people go nuts for it.
Yeah, because I remember being trapped in it. You don't realize it. Because I listened to WEI all the time when I lived there, and I hated WEI. But yet I still listen to it because it's almost like you want to keep up to date because people in New England care so much about sports, and especially the local teams. You never want to miss anything. You feel like you need all the information and all the opinions you can possibly gather at all times.
Right, that's the thing. There are different ways to look at everything. So even if I don't necessarily agree with a lot of what's being said, it's it's an interesting mind exercise to get. Yeah, and I never thought of it that way. So that's cool. But you know, in general, that's the way it is. Even when there's nothing to talk about, you know, their lines are always full. Both the stations, our site, every site is always, you know, the numbers are always there. So they go with it. Why change?
I'm glad that there's two stations now because I was long convinced that EI had a monopoly, and that there was a place for a second station. There's a place for maybe younger voices or whatever. I think what's interesting is that the people that tend to succeed in Boston are people that you know, push the envelope and are really super controversial and have hard opinions and take stands one way or the other, and then everybody gets mad about, oh, this guy's just provoking us. This guy's
that's
just
my
pushing
problem.
our buttons.
I gotta get on that.
Yeah, the more buttons you can push, it seems like that's actually better because people, even if they're mad, they're still engaged.
Right. Well, that's the old deal with Howard Stern from Private Parts. You know,
right?
The people that hate him are the ones that listen even more to the guys that like him. So, you know, getting mad at Michael Felger is just as fun as supporting him.
Right. So. And he eats it up too. But this Red Sox season, I think what's, you know, the story behind the story, which has been really interesting to me, and I haven't read that much about it. I know some newspapers have done a couple pieces on it, but the empty seats, you know, like you see these clusters of seats now that I don't remember seeing. Maybe like Nomar's first season was the last time, you know, certainly once Pedro showed up, it stopped happening, but I was amazed. There was a game, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and somebody hit a pop fly into section 33, which is the section right next to the wall, which is a great place. Yeah, it's a great place to watch a baseball game. Like, you always, like, you never turn down a chance to sit in section 33 because you're right next to the wall, and it's a great foul ball territory. And there were like 25 empty seats there. You know, and then they're saying that they're still selling out, and it's unclear if they are or they aren't, or whether like people are just buying season tickets and then selling them to scalpers for the best games and then eating the rest. Or, I mean, what's your take on this whole thing?
Yeah, you know, it's fun. I did a story last week where I essentially just went and I spent the entire night just jumping from seat to seat because there are plenty available. I think part of it has to do, you know, especially back when you were here and as recently as probably about 5-6 years ago. It used to be that as soon as the Red Sox started, that's all we had here. I mean, the Bruins were horrible, the Celtics were horrible, and now for the last 5 years, especially, I mean, into June, there's not only other stuff going on, but there's the most important stuff of that particular sport going on. So I think it takes a while for people to get into the Red Sox. I think the teams that they've had certainly haven't been as interesting as the ones in the past. I mean. Last year, of course, they made the big splashes, but you know, just the attitudes are so many unlikable players. And then it's the whole thing of, you know, the football and every sport has problems these days. Do you want to sit at home and watch on your couch on an amazing HD TV?
Yeah.
Or do you want to go sweat in the cramped seat at Fenway for 5 hours or 8 hours if Dice K is pitching? You know, it's
you really you said the players are unlikable. Do you feel like they're unlikable or they're just not as likable as they were in the past?
Yeah,
I would say the latter.
Comparison, right?
I just don't think. I mean, they certainly don't have somebody that the fans have responded to on the level of Pedro or Nomar, right?
Right, and it's more, it's more that they're a bunch of just like neutral guys. Because I mean, you go through the lineup, and who do you hate? Like obviously, I mean, Pedroia is as close as you can get to those other guys that you just mentioned. But you know, then you go through. I mean, Ellsbury, he was close. I mean, I think if it wasn't for the injury 2 years ago and the injury this year, he seemed, you know, both times he seemed on the verge of really maybe taking that leap. Even though he's sort of Nomar-ish in the way that he acts, you know, interacts with other players, the way he interacts with the media, and sort of his public perception. And we can get to Youkilis eventually, but he was a guy that really represented. He was like a carryover. He didn't play much in 2004, but he sort of embodied that spirit a little bit after the fact, but the last 2 years he's been too hurt to really make a difference. Lester is great, but he doesn't have the personality to really engage anybody.
But what about, here's the part that I don't understand, like, what happened with Ortiz? Because Ortiz was on that Pedro Nomar level for a while, and then he had a couple slow starts, and it seemed like he was at a different stage of his career. But it's strange to me that his popularity hasn't remained on that level.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know if it was a matter of, there was a certain way he was when Manny was around, right? I think Manny's, as bad as Manny was, personality-wise in some aspects, he sort of, he was sort of like Rasheed Wallace or Shaq. Maybe Shaq's a better comparison. How Shaq probably, brought KG to another level emotionally when he was around. So Poppy was just a happier guy when Manny was there. I think he felt more at home. I think when Pedro was there as well. So even though, he's certainly the last 2 years has been much closer to the old David Ortiz as we ever imagined he would be, he just doesn't carry himself with that sort of, sometimes you see it, but in general, he's just grumpier than he is anything else. And then the ongoing contract disputes, every time it seems like it's going in a positive direction, and he might, get completely back in the favor of the fans, he comes out and starts bitching about his contract again.
I do wonder if his feelings were hurt forever that the Red Sox fans didn't kind of stick by him a little bit more when he was slumping those times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whether it's just like a permanent grudge for him.
But the feeling I get, though, is that it's more about the owners than anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe that has a little bit to do with it. But at the end of the day, and I'll say this about Red Sox fans, there are a lot of empty seats, but the fans that are there, I went to a game last weekend that when DuBrant beat the Marlins and it was 100 degrees, and the fans that were there were unbelievable. And it was weird because you watch from afar and you get caught up in all like the ugliness and all the media turbulence and everyone hating everybody.
Yeah.
And you go to Fenway and the vibe is still pretty good. It was actually really refreshing to be there. But I think more than anything, Poppy's problem is with the ownership.
It seems like I agree with you. The crowds have seemed like they're good on television, watching them for 3,000 miles away. It did make me wonder if maybe there was a little bit of a weeding out of the bandwagon element that kind of seeped in, and it were headed back a little bit towards those old school Fenway crowds. I will believe that we're fully there when the fans stop singing "Sweet Caroline" when the Red Sox are losing.
Right.
To me, that's the ultimate thing that never would have happened in like 1998.
But this
it
is
just
what
never would have happened.
So I went to the game last week, and I think they won 15-5. And I stuck around, and a lot of people left because, like I said, it was so hot, and it was a Wednesday night, and it was late anyways. But it was the middle of the eighth inning. They're up by 10 runs, and Sweet Caroline comes on, and I expect to just start hating everyone who's singing. I mean, we've grown to hate that song more than anything. But it started, and I kind of had a little bit of respect for everyone. I'm like, how do you call these guys who have lasted through this game through 4 hours in the excruciating heat on a Wednesday night? I mean, these aren't pink hats. The people that generally love the Red Sox and love Fenway. So it's the first time in probably 4 years I didn't hate Sweet Caroline as much as I've grown accustomed to.
I'm fine with it as a tradition, unless they're losing the game. I just think it's weird.
It's weird. Play it. Forget singing it. You shouldn't play it.
I don't know.
You want to play it?
Well, I like Gino was my all-time favorite dumb tradition. When Gino came on in the Celtics, I know I switched sports. When Gino came on in Game 6 of the 2008 Finals, and they cut to Pierce dancing on the scores table, and then to Gino, like that was really probably the best moment of that entire game. The
best moments of any game is when Kevin Garnett starts dancing with Gino. That is the realest that you'll see KG at any point of any season. That's the happiest you'll ever see him.
I'm not 100% against goofy in-game traditions, but I do think they burned it out by doing it when they lost. We were talking about how the bandwagon element and stuff like that, and the owners who it's weird to think that we reach a point with the owners. Once upon a time, these were the guys that were on board when the Red Sox went to a World Series. Like these guys, they
were the saviors in a certain respect.
Could do no wrong. It's hard to believe that they kind of screwed that up a little bit. It really took some doing.
And Henry did it with the Marlins, and I mean it was a little different. He didn't sell off the entire team, but and this is what I've always thought about them is that there's a difference between buying into a team as opposed to growing up loving the Red Sox, which none of these guys did. They purchased a team, and it's like a fantasy team. You grow attached to these players, and then the next year if you're not on your team, you hate them. But they did what they did. Once they won the title and the pressure was off in that respect, they just started to make money. That's all they cared about. They didn't care about the real fans. I mean, of course they didn't, because they've disrespected the real fans at every turn since, I'm not going to say 2004, but it's probably after 2006, 2007. It's been a disaster since then. So I think it had to do with the fact that they weren't real Red Sox fans, and they just don't understand.
Well, you say disrespected. Like, give me a couple examples.
Every TV show that was on the fact they turned Nesson into a joke,
right.
Sox Appeal and all those. There's not one show for people who actually like baseball. It's about, the way I've always said it is they came up with, this idea of what a Red Sox fan should be like in a marketing meeting, and then spent the next 5 years like catering towards this person that doesn't even exist.
Well, that would only make sense if they had their own sports marketing group as part. Oh, wait, they do. It's never been explained to me why they're just not running old Red Sox games on that channel all the time.
Right. They have the rights to every single one, right?
Yeah.
Or at least maybe the WSBK one.
Figured out some way to maybe pull that off. So if you had to rank the teams right now in Boston for popularity.
Okay.
Who would be the first team? Who would be number one? Who would be in the catbird seat?
I think it's got to be the Patriots. I think as long as Brady and Belichick are here, they are going to be number one, and in conjunction with the fact that the NFL just rules the world. So that's number one.
I would agree.
I think it's tough with the Celtics because obviously right now the vibes are amazing based on what happened, but we saw this past year where for the majority of the year they were nowhere near the draw or they had the level of talent that we'd expected, and a lot of people sort of were quick to jump off. It felt like 2006 pretty quickly. So
I might put the Bruins ahead of the Celtics.
Yeah, it's both of them are very very like niche fan bases. I think the Bruins fans are still going very strong off the Stanley Cup. So it's hard to really hate.
The difference is that if the Celtics went in the tank, I'm not sure how many fans would stick around.
That's what I'm saying. We saw it last year. It was actually pretty frightening.
The Bruins are just always going to have their base, and they were there and they stayed through the lockout and it never ever wavered, And now,
right, so is that what it is? There are so many years of just like heartache and pain that it's going to take something like the owners coming in and ruining it to scare off some of the real fans.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm 3,000 miles away, but I would say Patriots 1, Red Sox 2, and then I would say Bruins 3A, Celtics 3B. But, the way that this Celtics team the last 2 months obviously moved to number 2, but I think it was temporary. And a lot of it for them will depend on what they do with this draft, whether they keep KG, whether this team can be interesting. But here's a separate conversation tied to this one, though. If you ranked most popular Boston athletes right now, Brady would obviously be number 1.
By a long shot.
But who's number 2?
Man.
Could you make a case that it's Rajon Rondo?
No,
most beloved Boston athlete right now.
Right, but you gotta remember that it's Boston, and that there are a lot of people that are very quick to assume things about Rajon Rondo that might not necessarily be true.
Too moody, too mercurial, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think, if you'd asked this question last year, I think Tim Thomas might have been number 2, but
he fell out of the rankings.
Yeah, so I think if KG comes back, that he might be there.
Really? You go KG number 2?
Yeah, in terms of so which player is gonna sort of create the most emotions, the most passion in the fans. I think that even though he was only here for 5 years, hopefully more. But
what about Pierce? Would you put him over Pierce?
Okay, well, if you're talking about diehard Celtics fans, I think that they would take Pierce over KG. But if you take the entirety of Boston sports landscape, I think that people have connected more with Kevin Garnett just because of the way that he came in and sort of took over that team, and he's the one that gets the biggest reaction on the jumbotron, at the biggest times during the game.
Solid point.
And Kevin Garnett, he's obviously Paul Pierce has meant more to the city of Boston, but in terms of history of sports, Kevin Garnett.
I was thinking Rondo for the same reason that I would throw Tyler Sagan in there. Is
Oh, I love Tyler Seguin.
Such a big part of the Boston sports scene is the 17 and under demo. And
Right.
I think for the 17 and under demo and for kids and for like my cousins, Pete and Brian, people like that, they gravitate toward the young up and comers, which are basically Rondo and Sagan.
Yeah,
So
and well,
I was
in terms of
factoring
Rondo,
their
I
votes
think,
in.
I think if you believe Danny, and I mean, let's just say if you believe Danny, and this is the off season that Rondo finally is not going to be in every trade room, or maybe they're actually looking to build around him moving forward.
Yeah.
I think that would help a lot. I think everyone sort of had one foot out the door with him. You've always just assumed that something awful was going to happen, or he was going to react poorly to something, or the Celtics were going to have him in some sort of trade rumor. Where so you haven't really been able to build up that. I mean, everyone loves him, but in terms of comparing him, putting him right under Brady, that's the only difference in him not being there. But this last playoffs, he certainly, especially coming off Atlanta, where he got suspended for the game, and everyone was killing him around here, to respond the way he did and really just carry the team for as long as he did. I think that was a big step in him sort of establishing himself.
What about, where does Pedroia rank in this whole conversation?
Yeah, because there are just so many diehard Red Sox fans, and I think that's the one team, although obviously the Patriots are the New England Patriots, but in terms of really having fans everywhere in New England,
Generations.
I think yeah, exactly. So if you're going to pick a Red Sox, it would have to be Pedroia. He's still loving it, and especially I think in that demographic that you were talking about earlier, the younger demographic, just because I think he's their size, and he sort of represents the guy who didn't have every piece of physical amazingness that you need to achieve at that level, and he did what he's doing. So I think a lot of people relate to him in that sense.
I'm buying Avery Bradley stock.
Oh my God, I love the Avery Bradley, Rajon Rondo backcourt moving forward.
Me too. And last thing, and then we'll let you go because this draft's coming up. You tweeted that you thought Danny was trading one of these picks. They made a promise to Royce White, who, aka the guy who can't fly. I love Royce White. I've been I was. Not only am I driving the Royce White bandwagon, I actually built the car because I was by myself, just in a garage, just building it.
I've showed at least 30 people the YouTube video that you linked to in the column about his triple double.
Well, how about the fact that in the tournament he laid the smackdown on UConn, and then had a really good game against Kentucky. Like he's come up big in big games. He only played in college for a year, but I just think the stuff he can do, the words Antoine Walker have been thrown around with him, which I thought was intriguing. Kind of that powerful.
You see Boston.com had a list of biggest busts in Boston sports history the other week. Did you catch that?
No.
Oh, they had Antoine on the list, which was awful. But
why was he a bust? We almost made the finals with him.
To be honest, I didn't even read it because it made me so upset. I just saw him there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the video, I honestly I had never heard of Royce White until the tournament, so. And I don't want to speak too much about him, but that video that you linked out, all he needs is a funky haircut, and he's Anthony Mason. He was unbelievable.
Right. Well, so they need to get a forward with size. They need somebody young legs who can play the
more
four.
Than Juwan Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah, who could play with KG, who could play in place of KG, who can get some stuff done, and. I like Terrence Jones too on Kentucky, but I don't think he's going to be there. But I think Royce is somebody that if you have one pick, maybe you stay away from because he's risky, but because the Celtics have two, I think they're looking at him. I also,
Nicholson is the guy that everyone's talking about, right?
That's the one he's 22. He went to St. Bonaventure's. I'm not buying that one. I'd love to see them get one forward and then somebody who can shoot, who can play the swing spots. You think
they're gonna use both picks?
I do. I actually do.
My only thing is just that I just feel like Doc hates playing young guys. We've seen it every single year, and that's the thing with Avery Bradley. I thought that Avery could have played more as a rookie.
Well, that's it. Here's what I'm hoping though. I'm hoping that maybe Doc learned from that Avery Bradley thing because I remember before the Clipper game I talked to Danny for like a half hour, and I remember. I asked him about why doesn't he play Avery Bradley? What's the deal here? And even Danny didn't really seem to know. Like it was like this weird bias against young guys that hopefully he snapped out of because it's the same reason I'm still bitter about the 1988 playoffs. Casey Jones didn't play Reggie Lewis. You know,
Oh, right.
He's throwing out these washed up dudes, and meanwhile we had Reggie Lewis just sitting there on the bench, and he wouldn't play him because he was quote unquote not ready yet. Next year he averaged 20 points a game.
Right. I mean, we saw it this year with Etuan Moore. I mean, not that Etuan Moore is the second coming of anyone really, but I mean, if there was ever a season and ever a team where you'd be in a position to throw these rookies out there and see what they can do, it would have been this year. But still, the guy hardly got off the bench. So, like I said, I hope he's learned. That would be great. I mean, because you have the combination. If I think KG's coming back. Obviously, we don't know, but I think if you have
100%.
KG, yeah, okay.
Hold on, to interrupt you for a second. This whole is KG coming back? Will he sign with somebody else? Was one of the dumbest things ever. He's coming back. They're going to pay him. No, he's the most loyal guy on the planet. It took him 3 extra years to leave Minnesota. Like he's going to leave Doc? Give me a break.
From what I've heard is that they said that he has to go through a lot more on a day-to-day basis to be ready to play than anyone supposedly realizes. And he's just trying to figure out if he wants to do that again. I mean,
okay. Hold on. I have a newsflash for you. Let's make a list of all the things KG has done in the last 25 years other than play basketball. Oh, nothing. His whole life's revolved around basketball. He's not those kind of guys like him and Kobe. I think you're going to need a crane to get rid of those guys from the league. Those guys.
He did have a blog in China for a little bit.
Those guys, all they've done their entire lives is just devote everything to playing basketball. Like, you don't just turn that switch off. Your body eventually tells you can't do it anymore, but you don't just say, yeah, I think I'm good. I'm going to go sit on a beach. Like, he's never going to do that. What is he going to do, announce?
Well, you could see, I mean, you're not going to see Kobe in a broadcast booth, but you could see Kobe maybe staying involved with basketball somehow, but KG is just going to disappear. I mean, he's going to have nothing.
I think Kobe will be a GM. I
right.
totally see him running a team and being like the face of a team and doing that
Jordan
whole
did
thing.
it, didn't he?
My prediction for KG is that he will retire and then he will come back because he's going to. I just think he needs the grind of the season. I think he needs to be in shape. This is a guy that would get up at 5 a.m. and run on the beach in Malibu every day, like before people even thought that way. You
right.
know? I don't think you shut that off. I think he comes back. I think Ray leaves. Which is fine because they got Bradley.
And Jeff Green, would that be the biggest upset in NBA history if Jeff Green doesn't sign?
Right. You'd think Jeff Green comes back, which really helps them from the swing spot. I think the Celtics have 2 more years in them. I never understood this whole, end of the era. This is their last chance. I think that's crap. And especially look around the East. Like if the Bulls trade Lowell Deng, who's their second best player, and I can't believe they would even consider trading him. I feel like the East is open. Who are you afraid of in the East?
I mean, unless you just think Miami's going to win 4 straight titles right now, which is a distinct possibility.
I know, but here's the thing with Miami. You saw in that 1 minute when LeBron got carried off, and we weren't sure if he blew out his knee or whatever. You're always one injury away.
Yeah, that's true. We saw it this year. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just never know. And as long as they're in the mix with the team they have, I know I'm a Homer Celtics fan, but I will always wonder what would happen in that. You could have Bosh, give me Avery Bradley, and give me a healthy Pierce, and we'll see what happens in that finals. I still feel like they would have hung with that team.
And I agree that given what they had last year and what they did with what they had last year, and that they're pretty much going to be the same team, at least at the core moving forward, how are they not in the conversation for the next 2 years?
I think they have a chance to be the second best team if the Bulls do something dumb and trade Lowell Deng.
So it's that year 6 and 7 of a 3-year plan, or is it not even the 3-year plan anymore? Because once Ray's gone, it's sort of.
I think it's a 7-year plan. Everything ties in.
It's like Tommy Boy in college.
Well, here's the thing. Pierce has 2 more years at big money. So realistically, you're not going to have a ton of cap space until 2014 anyway. You sign KG for 2 years, 22, something like that. You bring Jeff Green back. You sign him to a 2-year deal. You stack it. You get team option for the 3rd year, whatever you need to do for a little more money. You bring Bradley back. You either trade up for one big player or use both of those picks. You have the foundation of something. This is a team that wasted a lot of salary space the last couple of years on the likes of Jermaine O'Neal and Wilcox and people, these unreliable guys that are spending $10 million a year on guys they couldn't count on if they can snap out of that.
They signed Marquise Daniels 3 times, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure he's coming back for a 4th, right? So
yeah, he's a good bench guy. I mean, literally, like on the bench, but he's great when he's standing there.
I don't think they're going to blow it up. I do think Ray's going to leave, and it's going to suck to watch him on another team.
Because he's got a couple more decent years left. I mean, he's not going to be
but
Ray Allen, but he'll.
Yeah, you're not going to pay him $6 million a year. All right, Rich Levine, we took up too much of your time. We will check you out on csnne.com. What's your Twitter handle?
It's Rich_Levine.
And we should mention that you finished second in the Sports Guy Intern Contest in 2004.
You know what? I'm going to say I was actually fourth, but I think.
Oh, you were fourth?
If history wants to remember it a second, I think we can just go with that. But I think it is important to at least please point it out. I still haven't forgiven your friend Camp. I forget his first name, but the Colgate grad. I mean, he's my guy, and he sold me out.
Oh, he did?
He did. Yes, he was like the lead. He was like my number one enemy on the judges panel.
Oh wow. See, I thought you finished second. Fourth is that's tough because you didn't medal.
Right.
You know,
exactly. I'm waiting
for
the second or third place person to screw up one of these years so I can sneak in.
You were on the Mount Rushmore of intern contestants, so that's good. You made the top four.
Hey, it's still I'm still waiting to surpass that. Well, maybe this conversation bumps that to number 2 on my resume.
All right, say hi to everyone in Boston. Tell them to be nice to Youkilis tomorrow.
Definitely. All right, Bill. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.